and it kept saying, "This is effed up, meanie. This is effed up. This is effed up." And Salmon's on the cross saying, "Shut the F up, Stevie. Shut the F up."
This next thing, you've talked about this on the DVD, The Rise and Fall of ECW. It's one of the most pivotal sort of little stories that happens within ECW, one of the most famous, or I'm sure you would say one of the most infamous, and it is the Crucifix thing with the Sandman and Raven and you and Meanie and everything else, and Tyler Fullington and Laurie and everything. Okay, before we get to the Crucifix, let's just have an overarching run up to how we got to crucifying the Sandman.
That's a hell of an opening question. Thank you. My guess is this was the version of Raven go, "You know what would be cool?"
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you what, my Roman Catholic church didn't think it was cool when I went to church next week. Anyway.
Okay, right. I actually wanted to ask about that.
Yeah.
Did you actually get pulled up on that?
I got pulled up on that. I almost got excommunicated from the church.
Lord.
So that was the rumor, but I had locker room heat in the church. So basically, this was not the 2 weeks before or anything. This was literally, I think he and Sandman were talking about it because Sandman built the cross. Sam had a construction background, so maybe they talked every day and they came up with the idea. And Paul would give, for good or bad, like you said, he gave guys incredible creative latitude to do what they wanted sometimes and trusted to see if it would succeed or fail. This was brought up actually backstage that night, what we were going to do and everything. I couldn't interpret it in my mind because he's like, because Raven would do this pose. So in a wrestling sense, yeah, makes somewhat sense you're going to do that. In a real world sense, my real world brain is kind of saying, all right, are we going to lose the pay-per-view or whatever we want to do? Or are we going to lose TV or are we going to lose the building, the company? We're dodging all these bullets from day one, little ones and big ones. Then it happens and you could see it cut back from me to Sandman. So for people saying I wasn't saying it, we were doing the deal and tying them to the cross. And it kept saying, "This is effed up, meanie. This is effed up. This is effed up." And Salmon's on the cross saying, "Shut the F up, Stevie. Shut the F up," which is literally what he said. "This is great. Shut up." Am I getting this wrong? The guy being crucified is arguing for his own crucifixion as I'm arguing against him being, and then they did it. And Raven kind of browbeat me afterwards for being a dumbass and don't ever talk like that. And you're stupid and you don't know, all that stuff. And I'm like, okay, fine. I mean, next week I found out just how much, because it only took a couple people to let the church moms know and everybody that, hey, that's the guy. And I'm like,
hey, it wasn't on TV though, was it? Did they take out the entire segment, or am I misremembering?
I think they took out the entire segment in hopes that Kurt Angle would change his mind, because that was the big. If Kurt wasn't there, I don't know if the apology would have happened by Raven, and I don't know if it would have been, which could have been a saving grace. Because imagine if it aired and they got 1,000 times what I got going into church the next week. So the blessing in disguise was Kurt Angle refusing to come to ECW. Good for him. He had somewhat of a really great career. He had one of the best ones. But, that could have put a stink on Kurt Angle. The WWE would have not invested in Kurt. I guess a lot of good things came from Kurt not wanting to be a part of ECW. We didn't get thrown off TV. We ended up getting the pay-per-view. We kept buildings. We didn't lose anything like that. And maybe other talent that would have come in, they would not have come in seeing that footage.
How much did it really bother you? I mean, were you bothered more about the perception that you were part of it, or did it bother you on an emotional level, a spiritual level, to be part of that?
Yeah, I mean, it did. I mean, people could say, well, it's religion, it's stupid, it's this, that, the other thing, whatever it is. But I was just somebody looking at that, and that symbol meant something to me. That symbol means even more to me now than ever. People can believe or not believe or whatever they want, but there was that part of me also outside of my own personal feelings about it, spiritually, emotionally, even logically. The wrestling part of it was, do we really need this? And the business, even though I wasn't completely smart to these other elements, these exterior elements of wrestling, I was still deep down going, man, I'm just getting a push and like, please don't shut the company down. And please don't, I want people to see me, and I was with Raven. So obviously my vision now was do whatever we can to make a name for ourselves so we can make money in the other two companies. And they may not want to touch us after seeing this. And dare I say it, maybe they didn't want to touch anybody from ECW for a bit. I don't know.
You know, the one thing that bugs me about it is that why did they have the cross on the floor to make sure that as few people as possible would watch it? I thought just the pure optics, the pure
Well,
setup of it.
the cross was heavy as anything. It would have took too long to get into the ring and put it up on the rope and do all that stuff. If you're looking at why it was like that, when we were doing it and taking it from out front of the ring, it was heavy. It was basically like two big, I don't know if it was round or whatever, but it was two big pieces of wood that were pretty much across. And this is during the time too where Tommy Dreamer wants to get shot in the ring. So we really don't, yeah, he still hasn't let that go. So goodness.
Hold on to that thought because I want to talk about that. Let's just talk about Raven's apology. So, okay, do you think that Paul Heyman, because as you said before, he gives a lot of latitude to people, but he must have known something at the very least to at least let it happen, and then all of a sudden he sends Raven out for an apology afterwards. So, okay, how much do you think that Paul Heyman actually knew about it?
Well, I mean, I think Paul would have to, you can't hide like hauling a cross into the bingo hall and then putting it under the ring. He had to see something. I don't know. In theory, it always seems like you can, like we talked about before, the Charlotte Flair stuff and other people. The wrestlers or the bookers or the promoters can convince themselves so much that it's the greatest idea ever and it's not going to offend anybody and it's just wrestling instead of removing yourself and saying, how would a family member or how would a family in general watching the show, how many people are we going to offend and ostracize away from this product? How many people that may be desensitized to 99% of what we do say, that's the one thing, I'm done, I'm out. Now, I don't know. There was another guy named Steve Carroll. Now, I don't know his relationship with the company, financial backer, or whatever he was. If he was there, he might have been the one that told Paul, what is this? And then Paul kind of feigned ignorance and then sent Raven out there. We might have had a representative from the TV network, from the pay-per-view company. I don't know about that part, but something prompted Paul. And my guess would be it might have been an exterior person or entity that told him, you have to make that guy go out there and apologize. Because it's not within Paul's scope to offer up outside of like with the Sabu thing when he no-showed or he was in Japan and there was that big thing that Paul came out and apologized to the fans. Storyline wise, I don't think ECW or any talent outside of this has ever apologized publicly in the ring right after the angle actually happened. Do you remember or apologize in general?
Well, are we talking minutes here? Are we talking an hour? I mean, how long did it take from
Sooner rather than later.
untying Sandman?
I mean, it had to give Raven enough time to get changed into his street clothes because he wasn't wearing his wrestling outfit, I think. I believe he was wearing.
I was going to say, what's the difference?
Well, pants as far. I only knew pants as far, versus shorts because I had the shorty shorts. But he had. It couldn't have been. It was the same show for sure because Kirk was there. I would say much sooner rather than any time later because the damage control. Hey, here's a thought. While I'm saying it, was it Kurt that went up to Paul, and Paul was trying to save face to keep Kurt in ECW? That's probably my best guess is what happened to Kurt, who I think was raised Catholic and definitely Christian, was like, "This is too much." Okay, I'd say all the other speculation might have happened, but I believe Kurt went right up to Paul and said, "I'm out of here." And wasn't Kurt's manager there too?
I don't know. I know what
His
Kurt said.
agent or
He said,
somebody was there or a part of telling him not to go to ECW.
I know that Kurt said to Paul, "I'm disgusted. I'm leaving. If my name or my likeness appears in the same show as that crucifix, then you'll be hearing from my lawyer." I guess.
Yes, that was also what he
akin to
said,
that.
word for word. So that might have been Paul might have been like, "Oh, no, we'll send Raven out to apologize." That could have happened that quick.
Yeah. Were there any real life consequences beyond that? I mean, did any channels drop them just by getting word of what they were doing, or was it just basically scrubbed from the archives? Well, not scrubbed from the archives, but just never shown, never broadcast, and then, there were no consequences beyond.
No, this was, I don't recall losing any more or less TV stations than we normally would on a week-to-week basis. But no, I think the Kurt thing, now that I'm thinking about it, Kurt saying that directly to Paul, Paul maybe saying, "No, Kurt, don't go," going over to Raven, telling Raven what to do, and obviously we get to the apology, and Raven did not feel, and still to this day, disagrees, and it showed every bit with the apology that he didn't think he should apologize. I don't think
Yeah.
I don't think the apology helped anything anyway. He's right in a way that this didn't change anything, but some of the other reasoning for not wanting to do it, you can argue that. Friend
The
friend
one
of the
thing I
show,
didn't ask
Raven,
you
friend of the
for,
show.
friend of the show, the one thing that I haven't asked you, and it's probably the most important one, and you more than anyone else will know this because you were right at ringside. How did the fans react? Were they, I mean, probably half of them couldn't see what was going on, but were half laughing or cheering or just silence?
Silent. You know, it may have been there may have been rumbling or people looking and talking and kind of a stir in the audience, but nothing like you would think it would be no heat at all and nothing. You could also say maybe it's something that Dutch knows the term, white heat, go away heat, or a mixture of all that. I believe the fans kind of like, even though I knew it was going to happen and I was there, as it was happening, it's like, is this really happening? Maybe the fans were in shock. Like, okay, we've seen some really out there stuff, but are they really doing this? That it's like, I think that they were, and then when Raven came out and apologized, the fans were kind of silent for that, if I can remember correctly. They weren't chanting, booing. They just kind of apologized and he left. It kind of took
Right, we're
took
gonna.
all
I'm
the,
sorry.
for obvious reasons, it took all the energy out of the night. I don't know after that point if everything got back on track or not. It was kind of a blur. We were done for the night, I think. So, well, if we were done. If we weren't done, we were done for the night after that.
Oh, you were done. You were done, all right. Right, we're going to do one more thing then. So I just want to briefly mention that the pay-per-view is back on. You appear on WWF Raw at the Manhattan Center, but that is going to be for a future episode because, damn, there's so many stories I'm sure we can talk about that, including your match with Little Guido, Jerry Lawler and Taz, Paul Heyman, and the relationship with Vince McMahon and that kind of thing. That is going to be
with all three of us backstage at the production thing with they had an interior kind of production area with the screens and everything. And I believe that Meanie has fan cam footage from us being backstage in that standby area and then going out to the crowd.